Another thing, so here's the thing, right, about, when I go into this love story, right, Harry pedestalizes his wife for her to gain public admiration. Notice some things that he did in this storytelling. It was important for him to tell us that she was a high value woman herself. She had a full life. She had her own apartment. I think she bought it. She was running charities, she was an activist. She was, doing all this charity work. She was a successful actress. She's probably like a good amount of money, independent financially. She had a bustling social life. She was a high value, high quality woman. She had a fully thriving life. This was all important for them to enunciate in this video, in this documentary. Another thing that they found very important to say was that, if you watch the beginning, that first episode, is that, he's the one that found her. He discovered her on Instagram. He asked her out. He sought after her. These are all tools that they're using, which, whether it's true or it's not, probably is true. But the fact that they needed to tell us this in the storytelling, you see, if I was Piers Morgan, I would say, oh, they tried to manipulate us to believe this. But I believe it probably was the truth. But the fact that they had to tell us this was them just making sure we understood that she was a high quality woman. He sought after her. She didn't ask for this. He sought her. He chased her, is what they were trying to insinuate. So all of these things make her seem desirable and a solid entity beyond just being Harry's wife. Especially when he made us know, he was late, but he was extremely nervous and flustered to meet her. These are all tactics that Justin Bieber used in his documentary. Just talking about how, oh my God, I'm just nervous. When Justin was like talking about making his album and how he was like nervous when she's in the studio because he loves her so much. All of these things, right, are just tactics that convinces the viewer that this person is so important to you. And one thing I will say, this is a side note. Yes, I'm not saying this like they're trying to manipulate us. I think this is probably fact. But notice that they didn't have to put this in the documentary. But I feel as though Harry wants to defend his wife, and he wants the internet trolls to back off. And more importantly, after all the insults, all the lies that was spread about them, hers were more extreme than Kate. If, like, there's a saying that goes, if you don't defend yourself, no one will. If you don't tell your story, other people will fill in the blanks. And me personally, if there were lies about me that were this extreme going around the world, I would speak up. I feel like everyone in the modern era with social media accounts, just the modern landscape that we live in, would speak up against lies that are being spread against us. So why, because traditionally the royal family take abuse and they don't speak out, why do we feel that he and Meghan don't have the right to speak out? Why do you feel that they don't have the right, but you have the right to? And that's the question I have to Piers Morgan, who's the most vocal person that you'll ever find in the world, even speaks more vocal than me. But he just berates them for speaking out and speaking up and defending themselves. But if it was him that lies were being spread about, wouldn't he defend himself? People are just so self-centered. People just only think about themselves. People are just, they lack empathy for other people. And they don't just understand that, like, why do you think they would be doing this? Why is this such a big deal that somebody would want to defend themselves when people are spreading lies about them for years? Imagine you had to wait got 7 years to be able to defend yourself. 7 years? You had been silent for 7 years? I'm not capable of doing that. And I commend them for being silent for this long, because I would have, hell no. So they did what they could. And before, let's just remember that when they did say something, it was filtered by whoever in the royal press office in the royal family, that filtered through their voices and told them, no, you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't say that. And to me, in this documentary, they were extremely classy in the way that they they defended themselves. They were extremely classy in how they did it, because some places where I would have insulted people, like Harry was so subtle with his insults. They were just like, I remember there was a part where he was like, they were inventing royal, like people would say Meghan broke royal protocol. And he would be like, I mean, they were just like inventing royal protocols. And I'm like, it was just funny because like, you guys are making stuff up that doesn't exist. That was a jab. He took jabs, but very strategically, very like sophisticatedly, just jabbed and moved on. And like, it was just subtle. Like that's top tier insults. Anyway, let's keep going. Another thing people hated was Harry comparing Meghan to his mother. Now, if that is his truth, like I remember Piers Morgan, I'm going to react to Piers Morgan, his sort of insults. I'm going to do that on the Kenim O show. But people have an issue with him comparing her to his mother. And especially when Piers Morgan said something about that he knew both women and they were nothing alike. You didn't know both women in the way that Harry knows both women. That was his mother. That was his mother. These are your mother and your wife are the two women you're going to be the most intimate with in your whole life. And I 100% know that Piers Morgan was not intimate with either of these women in those ways. Even though it's alleged that he went on a date with Meghan or whatever, you were not in a relationship with her. You were not that intimate with her. You don't know her like that. Stop claiming like you know them. So in the ways that Harry knows these women so intimately, he is comparing her to his mother. That's a fair assessment. And I just ask for people to have more empathy on this. Like, why is this so hard to believe that this woman could be like his mother? This woman that was already an activist before he met her, was already doing stuff in charities, and already like the way that we watched Diana, especially because I just watched The Crown, it's so fresh. But even back then, remember when Diana went to, an AIDS hospital in Harlem and she hugged some AIDS patients back in the 90s when it was like people were afraid. Because of Diana, people like Mother Teresa started touching AIDS patients when they went to these hospitals. Before Diana, people wouldn't do that. People were afraid. People wouldn't even stand in the same room as them sometimes. But Diana did that. She hugged them and she was a royal highness. So seeing Meghan do these things even before she met Harry, why is that so bizarre to people? It's so crazy to me. And so it's believable that he sees things we're never going to know. We don't know Meghan, but it's believable that he sees his mother in her. Why not?